Hello, my dears. That was a really strange way to start. It's just me today, although of course we live streamed earlier on this same day. But it's my first time taking a crack at one of these, all by my lonesome. No one to bounce off of. Sure, Todd will be back next time though. He wouldn't want to miss the satchel charge. Anyway, this is the Overclock workshop series that has been somewhat bastardized to allow its existence to continue. In today's episode, I'll be asking a very important question. What if Gunner's Shield had overclocks? So I'm going to show you what I've come up with, just briefly go over what they are, the reasons I think they would be good things to add, and that's really it. Considering we don't have Tyler to fire back and call me a numpty this time. Odd word to use. So really the point of this, because we have a pretty good understanding of how Ghost Ship Games feels about the idea of giving overclocks through support tools, but that's not entirely the point. I would like to see that, but this is more about presenting interesting mechanics that I would love to see on these tools in any form. The Overclock workshop is just a good format through which to deliver those ideas, to pitch those ideas. And yeah, arguably a lot of these, and we'll see more in the future, where it would feel like this can probably only exist as an overclock. Nevertheless, I still find the idea and the mechanic tied to it very enticing. And I'll reiterate, it's not about a need for there to be overclocks. It's just about what would be neat to see on these tools. Cool mechanics, or things perhaps that they feel like they might be missing, that you should be able to have on them if you want. That's really what it comes down to. But of course, having the 3 different categories of overclocks means I have to come up with 3 fairly distinctly different things, especially considering 2 of the 3 have to have penalties tied to them. So without further ado, let's begin. So, the clean FRIZ-B. What can I say? Well, it's a clean, first of all, as you can see. Hold on a second, something's missing from that. There we go. Back to how it should be. Anyway, so the idea of FRIZ-B, so you'll see this a lot over the course of this series as it continues. A lot of the cleans are very basic sort of things that you could see as upgrades almost. Even when it comes to the grenades, it's like, you could argue that some of the cleans could even be split into multiple upgrades. You could potentially make that same argument here. But what I'm really doing is, you might expect the clean to be something just like improved recharge speed or slightly increase the size of the shield, something very basic, right? And in essence it is, but it's sort of that but flipped on its head a little bit, sort of tapping into something that isn't really a mechanic, but was sort of, I'm still showing how it could actually be used to be useful. The actual movement of the shield as it moves in terms of you throwing it and it also coming back to you. And that's the idea of FRIZ-B. It's like a FRIZ-B, you can throw it very far and it will come back. Not what FRIZ-Bs do, is it? Either way, that's part of it. But really, honestly, the main thing is that first point, being able to throw the shield much further. I think we would also combine that with it being thrown faster. Something like, think anti-gravity mixture for the sludge pump. It would basically be like that, but for the shield generator. You can throw it further and faster, which means I want the point of this to essentially be that wherever you're looking, the shield will end up there, which will allow you to much more efficiently shield your teammates from variable distances. It will sort of take a lot of the thought out of that and make it possible to do that at much further distances than was possible before. So that's another thing. Well, that's actually arguably the main thing. And then the other part, having it return to you much quicker, that's just sort of having increased recharge speed in a bit of a funny way. But it also means that it's more forgivable when you throw it so far away that it won't have to take much time for it to start recharging once the shield's been used. Its travel time when it returns to you is something. It doesn't usually play into actual combat, but in a case where you can throw the shield effectively much further, it would take much longer to get back to you and start recharging, unless there's a way to have it return to you quicker. And FRIZ-B sort of provides both of those things. And like I said, this is possibly one of those ones that you could split into 2 upgrades if you wanted to. if they were to ever overhaul the support tool modification trees. So yeah, FRIZ-B, just a silly little guy that can be used to potentially do some interesting things with the shield generator, and also playing with some stats that might not even exist. I can also imagine it being used for, letting your teammates resupply from, you're much further away. You're not close to the resupply at all, or also especially Doretta. If you're far away from Doretta doing stuff, she's getting attacked. Not going to be that hard to get that shield over there, and if you don't get back in time, it will come back to you very quickly as well. Yeah, I take a lot of stock in FRIZ-B. I think it'd be pretty cool. Or at least these additions would be pretty cool in some capacity. Moving on. A dealer of death should take great care of his own life. Basically a made-up quote. It feels like it would be a quote though. Either way, the balanced overclock, BULWARK, which may or may not be a name stolen from Titanfall 2. This is very much so focused on a very gimmicky idea that, upon further inspection, I realised has a lot of potential. The idea is that you basically wear the shield. It moves with you. You deploy. You don't get to throw the shield out. You just deploy it and it attaches to your centre of mass, and it's just stuck there for its entire lifetime. Obviously, part of this is that you can't sprint while it's active. I think that's fair for balance, although I suppose you could still dash. And it also takes longer to recharge, which I might immediately refute or keep and turn this into unstable, because it should definitely be a smaller shield. The idea is that it's supposed to be fairly personal. It's more about you and the shield just being more malleable, more flexible in terms of positioning while in use, or giving it any amount of flexibility of positioning while in use. It's not that you can move it, but in this case you can, because it moves with you. But I do think it should probably be slightly smaller. So what would be the benefits of this? I'd say the use cases of a shield go up by quite a bit, while some of the original use cases actually probably disappear. For example, given that you can't actually throw it out. But, during elimination, you're not going to use it to shield the resupply as easily, or throw it on top of your friend who's down. But you might be able to prevent a lot by putting it on and just kind of just pushing the dreadnought away. I don't know. I think it has, like I said, increased use cases, and I think it would just be a lot of fun to see what you could do with a shield that moves with you. That's really the idea. So you think, you've got things like the pipelines in on-site refining, or Doretta, which is a big one, by the way, because I like this idea more than just like being able to put a shield on, on things. You in this case you can put it on wherever you're on, which means while it's active, it will just go wherever you go. Such as if you're anytime that you have increased movement, this will feel really cool. Like low gravity, rich atmosphere. If you're riding a cave angel, like I said, if you're riding the pipelines, or if you're on Doretta, anything like that. If you're riding a silicate harvester, which I guess you'd probably be faster if you just walk. You've got cave cruisers, all sorts of things where I think this would just be really quite a bit of fun. And the idea is for it to not really restrict you too much. It's just a very different way of using the shield, which is why I think maybe recharge isn't the most fair penalty, and that shield size would be more fair. Because that's really what it's meant to be. I would. It's one of those things where I can think of a lot of ways I would use it, but it, how good it actually is something that would have to come out of playing around with it, and I can't really think of many of the things that I would want to play around with more than this. Also, when it comes to Gunner's own kit, you'd be able to use it alongside the zip lines, making you much safer while on them, making that a viable thing to do. So that's pretty up there, and I think it would just aid. This is why it's called BULWARK. It would just aid the idea of Gunner being a mobile tank, which I think some kind of personal shield, or a gun shield would have provided that. And something like this is the closest that I think we'd be able to get, which is why I think it's just such a cool idea, with a lot of use cases and good strong concept behind it in terms of invoking certain feelings. It would be gimmicky, but it would also make you feel like a tank. I don't know, it's sort of two quite conflicting things. It's a little bit silly, but it's also kind of badass, and I think I like that. Anyway, I'll leave it there. If you think it's absolutely shit, which, Tyler probably would have belittled me for this one, which is understandable. He'll probably belittle me for the next one. I'm glad I was able to dodge those bullets. Speaking of the next one, oh, sorry, voice crack. Trust me, I'm a man. Right, next one. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Introducing ELECTRO-CONVERTER, the unstable one. Unstable because it is kind of nuts. We'll get to that. It's essentially a rage spell, is sort of the basic idea. Think the amp wall from Titanfall 2. Really, the overarching idea is the shield strengthening outgoing damage while not being as protective in return. So to make it feel like it's really bolstering your killing potential and keeping you safe at the same time, but obviously that would mean it shouldn't keep you as safe as normal. The big thing being that I think, especially from a visual standpoint, I'd want the shield to be mostly gone. It would appear more as a field, like an energy field, not like obviously the shield's not solid, but it wouldn't be as visibly tangible. Because the main negative is that the shield no longer blocks enemy projectiles. And this might require me to explain a little bit about how the shield works, in that it sort of does two things. The shield itself blocks enemy projectiles, and that's it. That's all it does. That's all the actual shield does. But the generator also, within its area of effect, gives you this status effect. Well, it pushes enemies away via fear, and it will still do that in this case, and it will also give you the status effect of crazy shield regen. That's really what it does. So you're still protected in a lot of ways, but because your projectiles can escape in the way that they can, obviously they normally can, but in this case they're stronger, I think it's appropriate that enemies can shoot in as well. You know, that massive split is not going to be doing as much damage as normal, nowhere near, because of what the shield regen that the shield generator still gives you. But it will still be able to shoot in. And obviously, the main point here, pardon me, strengthening outgoing damage by adding 15% of damage done as electric damage. Now, that's more conceptual, as in, it would make sense. It's called ELECTRO-CONVERTER. It makes sense to me that the shield would electrify stuff that, like, you know, stuff that's shot through it. At the same time, I think to perhaps deliver best on the function that this would serve, it should probably be just generic kinetic damage, something that all enemies take the same amount of damage from, especially in case of enemies that resist it, like oppressors, although it's not like it would help you shoot an oppressor in the face anyway. Either way, I'm just in love with this idea. I think, once again, this would aid to the tank idea of Gunner, where you can just sit down and do a shitload of damage. It's almost like locking down. You know, think like a Cobra from Halo Wars, where it locks down to do a lot more damage. It would almost be like that. You know, you can combine this with Mole and all that kind of thing. But then it still functions as a shield, and your teammates can use it as well. So the potential damage output is actually kind of insane. You know, you question whether 15% would be too much, but the concept remains. If they ever did something like this, I would just want to see them get it right through balancing. Get the number right. You know, the number is arbitrary, really. I would just want it to be whatever's balanced, but for it to still feel like your damage is being increased by shooting out the shield. And that's a concept that I am, like I said, I'm absolutely in love with, and I won't let go of. Also, who knows? It might actually make bullet hell viable, but either way, there's not really much more sort of love I can give this idea, and there's not much I can really say against it, other than I understand that it might just be too ridiculous, but at the same time, that's the thing, isn't it? You look at BULWARK, you look at ELECTRO-CONVERTER, it's like, these inherently, you know, I mean, the whole thing is sacrilege when you think about it. The fact that they've said that they don't want to do overclocks for support traversal tools means that I'm already going against Ghost Ship, but I'm going against them further in having them sort of twist kind of what you'd expect. I think you still get the basic concept. BULWARK is still the shield. ELECTRO-CONVERTER still does a lot of what the shield does. It still does most of it, technically. Although, you know, not having enemy projectiles come in still probably be a shock. But I don't think anyone, you know, I think specifically in the case of ELECTRO-CONVERTER, I don't think people would be upset if this is what you were running. You know, some cases they might be. Bulwark, I can see people being upset, but you know, you can eliminate the unpredictability by having people's loadouts be visible to other players in the lobby, which is such a simple feature. It might not be simple to implement, I don't know, but it's something that they should really look into, because I think it would open up a lot of doors. It would open up doors for things like this. If it turns out they hate my ideas, then that's okay as well. Because in a lot of ways, I hate them too, because I know that they're never going to see the light of day, except in writing. Nevertheless, I'm not going to waste this opportunity I have to make this video very brisk, which is ideal. I don't blame Tyler for them not being as brisk, by the way. I blame myself. I try and talk a lot more when I have someone to talk to. And for the purposes of these videos, I suppose that's not ideal. For every other video, though, it is absolutely better. That's why we do things the way we do. But, you know, I can't say I actually enjoyed this more because he's not here. I don't think that's true at all. Either way, like I said, I'm in a fortunate position where I can end this already. Although I feel like I had something to say. Just realised the music started playing Happy Birthday, which don't need that. Damn it! Was I even going to say anything? I don't think I was. I think I'm done. I think I'm done here. What I will say is though, tomorrow I'll be starting a new limited series. I'll be playing Deep Rock from scratch, starting over. So that should be pretty exciting. And obviously, back to the video itself. Feel free to comment which of these ideas you liked the most, or if you thought any of them were actually good. I'd love to hear that. Any of your own ideas? I still would like to do a viewer-oriented workshop one day, although we haven't really got enough ideas in response to do such a thing. Also, one difference you would have noticed already if you came here via the Reddit post is that I'm putting up the slides directly that have the overclocks on them. I want to just get these ideas out there, draw some attention to them, by not having to have people sit through the whole video to learn what they are. And they can just watch the video if they want sort of an explanation. So that's that. I struggle to end things, so I think I just will. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this, please make sure to rock and stone, and by rock and stone I obviously mean like and subscribe. See you next time, guys.